All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into the Enneagram.
Ooh, I love the Enneagram.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you kind of hear about, and then when you really start to unpack it,
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to simplify it as much as possible, but also give you guys a really good overview, and we're going to be doing this deep dive in 3 parts.
That's right.
So this is part 1.
Yes.
Stay tuned for the next 2 coming out, I think, over the next couple of weeks.
It's so fascinating.
So for somebody who has never heard of the Enneagram, how would you describe it?
So I would describe it kind of like as a personality typing system.
Okay.
But it goes so much deeper than just saying you're this type or that type.
Right.
It really gets into your core motivations and fears.
Yeah.
And why you do the things that you do.
I like to think of it kind of like Hogwarts houses.
Yes.
Like you can be sorted into a Hogwarts house.
Totally.
But this is like the more sophisticated version of that.
It is like the grown-up version of a personality test.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like you're not just a Gryffindor or a Slytherin.
Right.
You are a type 1 or a type 2.
But it's not just like a label.
No.
It's not just like you are this and that's it.
Yeah.
It helps you understand why you are the way you are.
And it helps you understand other people.
Totally.
Like when you could look at someone and be like, oh, that's why they do that.
Exactly.
They're a type 6.
And then you can give grace to people.
Exactly.
Because you're like, oh, they're coming from this place of like fear or whatever it is.
It just makes so much sense.
So where do we even begin with this system?
So the Enneagram is made up of 9 types, and they are all interconnected.
Okay.
And each type has its own unique set of motivations, fears, and patterns.
Okay, so 9 types.
9 types, yes.
All right, let's just jump in.
Let's start with type 1,
Okay.
the reformer.
Okay, the reformer.
Yes. So type 1s are driven by a desire for goodness and order.
Okay.
They have this deep inner longing for things to be right.
So is this like the person who's always pointing out typos?
Maybe. But it goes deeper than that.
Okay.
They're also the ones who are fighting for social justice.
You okay?
They're volunteering their time. They're trying to make the world a better place.
So they want to reform things.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
They see what's wrong and they want to fix it.
I can see how that would be a good thing, but also maybe a little challenging.
Definitely. Their desire for perfection can sometimes be their downfall.
In what way?
Well, because no one and nothing's ever perfect, right?
Right.
So they can get really critical of themselves and others. They might struggle with anger and frustration.
When things aren't perfect.
Yeah, it's like they have this inner critic that's always saying, not good enough.
Yeah, I can see how that would be tough.
And it can create tension in relationships.
For sure.
But the good news is that once a type 1 understands this pattern,
Okay.
they can start to work on it.
So self-awareness is key.
It's huge. They can learn to embrace imperfection, practice self-compassion.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yes, exactly.
Between striving for excellence,
Yes,
but also accepting that, like, good enough is sometimes good enough.
it's a journey.
That's the reformer.
That's the reformer.
All right, let's move on to type 2.
Type 2, the helper.
Okay, this sounds nice.
They are very lovely.
Okay.
So type 2s are all about nurturing and supporting others.
Okay.
They are the friends who bring you soup when you're sick. They're always there to lend a listening ear.
So they're really empathetic.
Extremely empathetic and generous.
I feel like I know a lot of type 2s.
I think we all do.
They're the caregivers.
Yes. They find so much joy in helping others.
But I imagine there's a shadow side to this too.
There is. What would that be?
Well, because they're so focused on others, they can sometimes neglect their own needs.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
They have a hard time saying no.
Right.
And they might struggle with boundaries.
Because they want to help everybody.
Exactly.
So they need to learn how to say no.
They do, and they need to learn to prioritize their own well-being. So it's about finding that balance again.
Always about balance.
Between giving to others
Yes.
and also taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay, I like it.
All right, ready for type 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
Type 3, the achiever.
Oh, okay. So we've got the reformer, the helper, and now the achiever.
It's interesting, right?
Are we sensing a theme here?
Maybe. These first 3 types are often called the heart types.
The heart types?
Yes.
Okay, tell me more.
They're driven by a desire to be seen and appreciated for who they are and what they do.
Okay, interesting.
So type 3s, they're all about success.
Okay.
They're ambitious, driven, and they thrive on achievement.
So they're the ones who are like getting all the awards?
They might be, But it's not just about external validation for them.
Oh.
They genuinely enjoy the process of setting goals and accomplishing them.
So they're very goal-oriented.
Extremely goal-oriented, they're adaptable, charismatic.
And they probably inspire other people.
They often do. They have this can-do attitude.
Okay, but I'm sure there's like a downside.
Of course, there's always a shadow side.
What would it be for a type 3?
Well, they can get so caught up in achieving that they lose touch with their authentic selves.
Oh, I see.
They might worry too much about what others think.
So it's like they're performing all the time.
In a way, yeah.
And they might even struggle with imposter syndrome.
Even though they're very accomplished.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for a 3, the growth path is about learning to define success on their own terms.
Okay.
And finding fulfillment in the journey, not just the destination.
Not just the destination.
Yes, it's about recognizing their inherent worth, regardless of their accomplishments.
It's like that whole idea of like, you are enough.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the reformer, the helper, the achiever.
Now we're moving into type 4.
Okay, this is where we get into I feel like this is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated.
Well, each type has its own complexities.
Yeah.
But type 4 is often seen as the most misunderstood.
Okay, type 4, what's their name?
The individualist.
The individualist, okay.
So type 4s are driven by a deep need for self-expression and authenticity.
Okay.
They're often drawn to creative pursuits.
Artists, writers, musicians.
Exactly. They have this rich inner world that they long to share with the world.
Okay.
They feel things very deeply.
Oh, so they're sensitive.
Very sensitive. They experience emotions more intensely than other types.
And they're probably very in tune with their own uniqueness.
Yes, they often feel a sense of longing for something they can't quite define.
Like they're searching for something.
Always searching.
Okay. And what's the shadow side of this?
Well, because they're so sensitive, they can be prone to envy and feelings of inadequacy.
Oh.
They might compare themselves to others.
And feel like they don't measure up.
Exactly.
And they might feel misunderstood.
Yes, like no one truly gets them.
So for a 4, the growth path is about embracing their individuality.
Yes, about seeing their sensitivity as a strength.
Okay.
And finding ways to connect with others who appreciate their unique perspective.
So finding their tribe.
Exactly.
Okay, wow, this is fascinating.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah, and we've already talked for like 20 minutes.
I know, right?
So maybe we should pause here.
Let's take a break.
And then in the next part, we'll pick up with the other types.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've covered the first 4 types, the reformer, the helper, the achiever, and the individualist.
Each one with their own unique set of strengths and challenges.
Yes, and we've just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve into the remaining 5 types and how all of this connects to relationships, personal growth, and even spirituality.
It's going to be good.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
All right, see you guys in part 2.
Bye.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We talked about the first 4 Enneagram types.
Yes.
The reformer, the helper, the achiever, and the individualist.
Such fascinating types.
And it's amazing to me how much like the name really captures like the essence of it.
It really does.
Like even just hearing those names, you can start to like kind of get a feel for what those types are all about.
Totally.
So before we jump into the remaining 5,
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit more about how this plays out like in real life.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people are probably listening to this and they're like, oh, okay, this is interesting, but like, how does this actually help me?
Right.
Like, how does knowing my Enneagram type actually make a difference in my life?
Yeah, it's not just about self-knowledge.
Right.
It's about using that knowledge to improve your relationships.
Okay, so let's talk about relationships.
Okay.
How does the Enneagram come into play there?
Well, imagine you're in a relationship with someone and you're constantly clashing.
Okay.
You just don't seem to understand each other.
Like you're speaking different languages.
Exactly. But what if you could understand their core motivations and fears? What if you could see the world through their lens?
That would be amazing.
It would. And that's what the Enneagram allows us to do.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
So let's say you're a type 1, the reformer, and you're dating a type 9, the peacemaker.
Okay, the reformer and the peacemaker. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Well, it could be challenging
I could see that.
because the type 1 is all about striving for improvement, right?
Right, always trying to make things better.
Exactly. And they might get frustrated with the type 9's go-with-the-flow attitude.
Because the 9's just like chill, relaxed.
Yes, they prioritize harmony and avoiding conflict.
Which a type 1 might perceive as laziness or apathy.
Right. But it's not that the 9 is lazy. It's just that they have a different way of being in the world.
Okay.
So the Enneagram helps us to bridge that gap.
By understanding each other's motivations?
Yes, the Type 1 learns that the Nine's desire for peace isn't personal.
Okay.
It's not a rejection of their desire for improvement.
It's just their way of being.
Exactly. And the Nine learns that the One's criticism isn't meant to be hurtful.
Right. It comes from a place of wanting to make things better.
Exactly. So instead of getting defensive or blaming each other
They can start to understand each other.
and appreciate their differences,
I love that.
it's so powerful.
So it's like having this new lens through which to view your relationships.
It is. It's like a decoder ring.
Yeah, and it's not just for romantic relationships.
No, it applies to all relationships.
Friendships, family dynamics,
Everything.
work relationships,
It helps us to understand why people do the things they do.
and to communicate more effectively.
Yeah.
Because when you know where someone is coming from,
Yes.
you can adjust your communication style
To better meet their needs.
and avoid misunderstandings.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is amazing.
It really is.
Okay, so we've talked about relationships,
Yes.
but you also mentioned that the Enneagram can help with personal growth.
Yes, this is a huge part of it.
Okay, so how does that work?
So each Enneagram type has a core fear.
A core fear.
Yes, it's like a fundamental belief that drives their behavior.
So it's like an underlying anxiety that shapes how they see the world.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting.
For example, a type 6, the loyalist, has a core fear of being without support or guidance.
So they're always looking for security.
Yes, they need to feel safe and secure.
Okay.
And this can manifest in a need for authority figures.
Okay, so they're the rule followers.
They might be, but it's not just about following the rules, it's about having something to hold on to.
A sense of stability.
Exactly.
Okay, and how does knowing this help them grow?
Well, by recognizing this pattern,
Okay.
they can start to challenge those fears.
And cultivate self-reliance.
Yes, they can learn to trust their own inner compass.
So they're not so dependent on external validation.
Right. They can make decisions without needing constant reassurance.
Okay, that's powerful.
And this applies to every type.
Give us another example.
A type 2, the helper, might fear being unloved or unwanted.
Okay, so they overcompensate by giving to others.
Exactly. They try to earn love through their actions.
But the Enneagram helps them to see that.
That their worthiness doesn't depend on what they do for others. That they are inherently lovable and worthy of love.
Just as they are.
Exactly.
So it's about self-acceptance.
Yes, it's about recognizing your own inherent value.
And then making choices that align with that.
Exactly. It's about becoming more intentional in your life.
I love this.
It's so empowering.
Because it's not about judging yourself
No,
or trying to be someone you're not.
it's about understanding yourself
Your strengths, your weaknesses, your motivations.
and then using that knowledge to grow.
To become the best version of yourself.
Yes, that's beautifully put.
Okay, this has been so helpful.
I'm glad.
I'm starting to see the Enneagram in a whole new light.
It's a powerful tool.
But I also know that there's a spiritual dimension to this.
Yes, we've only touched on it briefly.
But I'm curious to explore that further.
Okay, let's talk about it.
All right, so we've talked about how the Enneagram can help us understand ourselves and our relationships better.
Right.
But I'm really curious about this whole spiritual dimension that we kind of touched on earlier.
Yeah, that's where it gets really fascinating.
What does that even mean, like spirituality and personality types? Like, how do those two things go together?
Well, you see, each Enneagram type has a unique path to connecting with something bigger than themselves.
Okay.
It's about transcending their ego and their fears and connecting with a deeper sense of purpose.
So it's not about religion necessarily?
No, not necessarily.
It's more about like a sense of meaning and connection.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's about recognizing the patterns that keep us stuck
Oh, okay.
and finding ways to move beyond them to something more fulfilling.
So, like, what would that look like for a specific type?
Okay, well, let's take type 8, for example.
Okay, the challenger.
Yes. The challenger, they have a natural drive for power and control.
Right.
They often take charge and fearlessly advocate for themselves and others.
Okay.
But this comes from a core fear of being controlled or harmed.
So it's a defense mechanism.
Exactly.
Okay.
Their spiritual path involves learning to surrender control, embracing their softer side, and trusting that they don't have to fight every battle to be safe and worthy.
So it's about letting go.
Yes, letting go of that need for control.
And finding strength in vulnerability.
Exactly.
Like, that's powerful.
And for a type 4 who often feels a sense of longing.
Right. Always searching for something.
Yes, their spiritual path might involve finding beauty and meaning in the present moment
Okay.
rather than constantly seeking fulfillment in external things.
So it's about appreciating what they already have.
Yes, and finding contentment in the now.
That's beautiful.
And for type 1, the reformer,
Okay.
who strives for perfection and can be critical of themselves and others.
Right, always trying to fix things.
Yes, their spiritual growth might involve letting go of the need to control everything,
Okay.
surrendering to a higher power.
So it's about acceptance.
Exactly.
Accepting that they can't fix everything.
And finding peace in that surrender.
Wow, this is really making me think.
It's deep stuff.
But what about people who aren't really into the whole spirituality thing?
That's okay.
Is the Enneagram still relevant for them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Remember, the Enneagram is a multifaceted tool.
Right.
You can benefit from its insights, even if you don't subscribe to any specific spiritual beliefs.
Okay.
Simply understanding your type and the motivations behind your behavior can be incredibly empowering.
So it can help us improve our relationships.
Yes.
Make more conscious choices.
Absolutely.
And live a more fulfilling life.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've learned so much about the 9 Enneagram types.
And how they can help us in all areas of our lives.
Yes. So to our listener, if you're feeling called to explore the Enneagram further,
Definitely do it.
there are so many resources available.
Books, podcasts, workshops, online communities.
You can even find Enneagram coaches.
It's a whole world out there.
It really is. So thank you so much for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Keep exploring.
Keep learning and keep growing.
And most importantly, be kind to yourself.
Yes, and to others.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.